Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Thanks for being here. So this video is for the new moon in Aquarius, which is actually tonight. And this new moon actually represents the beginning of the Lunar New Year as well. So happy Lunar New Year, everyone. From what I've heard, it's the wood snake year. So I did quickly look into that. So snakes, they're meant to represent wisdom, charm, elegance, and transformation. And wood snakes are supposed to be orderly, intelligent, refined, and tasteful. And apparently J.K. Rowling is a wood snake. I guess that means she's 60 now. Wow, we're all getting on, right? Well, anyway, I'm not a Chinese astrologer, but if I had to intuit something from all of that, it seems like we can expect transformation, but perhaps the transformation will be unfolding in a way that's more graceful and fluid. And as I said that, I started to see in my mind's eye how graceful a snake's natural movement is. So yeah, I do feel like this is about gracefully moving in the direction you'd like to move in. And that's a nice image, actually. Now, the other thing I like about this new moon is the fact that it's in Aquarius. And obviously, this is the sign that Pluto has entered and started moving it through. Now, Pluto is the planet of transformation as well. And it will actually be in Aquarius for the next 2 decades. So if you're interested in the astrology, you can get a free birth chart online as long as you know the date, time, and place of your birth. And that chart will show you which house or houses relate to Aquarius. And those are the areas of your life where you will experience Pluto's transformative influence over the next 2 decades. So for me, it's going to be in the 2nd and 3rd houses. But the thing with this new moon in Aquarius is it's unfolding in territory that Pluto will be traveling through. And because new moons are a time to set intentions, I do feel like this is a great time to sort of relay to the universe the changes that you'd like to see in your life. And ideally, you might want to set intentions that are quite specific to those houses in your chart that are occupied by Aquarius, because then Pluto is going to come through those areas, and you know, perhaps if you've set those intentions already, then the universe kind of knows what result you're after, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, well, that's enough of an introduction. The format for this video is always that we take a quick look at the astrology chart and then we follow that with a tarot spread for the new moon. The timestamps for each section will be in the description box. And before we start, we'll just do a quick love pause. So this is where we pause the video and take a moment to intentionally send some loving energy out into the universe. You can also just choose to do a Ho'oponopono prayer, which is where you say the 4 sentences. Thank you, I love you, I'm sorry, and please forgive me. So we'll just do the pause now, and I'll see you all on the next slide. Okay, so this is the new moon chart. Now, I personally find that the tarot and astrology sections do often relate quite well with each other, but if astrology is not your thing, you can just skip through to the tarot section using the timestamps in the description box. So here on this chart, highlighted in purple, are the sun and the moon, and they're conjunct as they always are at a new moon. So here they're at 9 degrees of Aquarius. Now there's a trine to this new moon from Jupiter retrograde in Gemini, which I've highlighted in grey towards the bottom of the chart. Now Jupiter retrograde is operating at an internal level, and it's in Gemini, so it's about a lot of ideas. And while this is not a good sign for Jupiter, Jupiter's actually in its detriment in Gemini, it's still a benefic planet, and because it's in a trine to this new moon, that's still a favourable aspect. So I think that's going to be a positive influence regardless. Now the ruler of this new moon is Uranus, which is highlighted in yellow, fairly close to where Jupiter is. And it's in retrograde in Taurus at the moment. The main thing, though, that jumped out at me as soon as I looked at this chart was how active one part of this chart is. So there are actually 2 stelliums in this chart, and a stellium is when you have 3 or more planets in the same sign. So here we have a Pisces stellium and an Aquarius stellium. And as you can see from the zodiac wheel here, these signs are right next to each other. So really, it's going to be a very limited number of houses that all of this action is happening in. So if you do have your birth chart, just look at these houses where Aquarius is and where Pisces is, because it's certainly one zone of the chart. So in terms of the specifics, the Aquarius stellium obviously has the sun and the moon in it, but it also has another conjunction, which I've highlighted in blue. And that's because Mercury has just sort of crossed Pluto in Aquarius. So they're still a degree apart, still very close. And that conjunction suggests to me that our conscious minds might have gained an idea of the aspects of our lives that Pluto has started transforming. So Aquarius is a sign that we associate with freedom, autonomy, rebelliousness, innovative thinking. So these things might mean that you're no longer feeling that it's necessary to fall into line with what others might expect and what society might expect. So this might be the feeling that you don't actually want to do things the way you've done in the past. You want to do things differently. You want to do things the way you want to do them. You want to choose a different path to the one everyone else is on. And with the Aquarian energies, the thing is that you're not going to feel like there's anything wrong with the way you feel. It's going to feel very right to you to make your own choices. And I have to admit, I personally quite like that energy. And of course, the new moon is also in Aquarius. So if you're setting intentions, you'll probably be setting those kinds of intentions. And with that Jupiter trine there to support things with plenty of ideas, it sounds like it will be impactful. The Pisces stellium, wow, it's also powerful because as you can see highlighted in green, we have Venus conjunct Neptune and the North Node. So I feel like that's an incredible conjunction. So Venus is another benefic planet, and it's the one we associate with divine feminine energy. So it's about love, beauty, fertility, creativity, receptivity, and so on. And Venus loves being in Pisces. It's exalted in the sign of Pisces. So it's actually a really great placement for Venus. And Neptune, as we've already talked about many times, it's in the last few degrees of Pisces. And that's the sign that Neptune rules. And Pisces, and I've said this many times, but Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac wheel. So Neptune is also completing its 165 year cycle before it starts a new cycle when it enters Aries. So I tend to see this as a very enlightened Neptune because it's completed a whole zodiac cycle pretty much. And this conjunction with Venus is indicating to me that our divine feminine side will come through this with an understanding of what needs to be created and brought to life in the future. And with the North Node there as well, I mean, the North Node is about our life path, the journey that our soul came here to have in this incarnation. So again, that's a profound element of this conjunction. So putting all these three things together, we have the energies of soul purpose, of heart-centeredness, of spiritual wisdom, and the divine plan. So it's really a lot going on in this stellium here. And of course, I haven't mentioned that Saturn is also in Pisces, so that's the fourth planet that's involved in the stellium. It's not conjunct these other things. So, but getting back to it, Neptune, Venus, and the North Node aligning in the final degrees of Pisces, it feels to me like it's a lot to do with soul alignment, and I do see it as a profound interaction. And although it's not shown here, the nodal axis is also aspecting the Mercury-Pluto conjunction, but it's an out-of-sign aspect. So the South Node at 29 degrees of Virgo is really only a few degrees away from a trine to Pluto and Mercury, which are in Aquarius. And similarly, the North Node, which is at 29 degrees of Pisces, is actually only a few degrees away from a sextile to Pluto and Mercury. So it's still close enough for that to be a trine and a sextile. So I feel like this Pluto-Mercury conjunction is also working with the nodes in a positive way. Now, Venus and Neptune in Pisces, they're also in a sextile with Uranus retrograde in Taurus, which as I said before, is shown in yellow. And Uranus is then also in a sextile with Mars retrograde in Cancer, which is shown at about 5 o'clock on this chart in red. So I feel like this might be revelations that relate to our material world that will also have an impact. But this is actually forming like a minor grand trine pattern, so that means all these planets are working together. Saturn in Pisces I've also highlighted in red. It's at the left of the chart near the other planets in Pisces. And it's also in a trine with this Mars retrograde in Cancer. So Mars in retrograde, it's a lot of energy directed internally, and Mars in Cancer is not a great placement either, because Cancer is a sensitive, feminine water sign, and Mars is an active, masculine fire sign. Really, they couldn't be any more different. So all of these, all of this with the retrograde and it being in Cancer, it's all implying to me that our masculine energies are actually diminished at this time. So it's really not a great time to take action on things, and that's going to feel frustrating. And Mars is also in a square with Chiron in Aries, which I haven't highlighted Chiron, but it's just under that Pisces conjunction in green. So it's Mars is probably also being challenged by some issues that need to be healed. So Chiron's related to the healing we need to do in order to evolve on our soul path. So with all of this, Mars is a bit bogged down with a few things. And while the trine from Saturn is a positive aspect, Saturn and Mars are both malefic planets. So they, aren't necessarily planets that work well with each other. So Saturn obviously is a strict, kind of restrictive influence. So what I'm seeing this trine as is really about Saturn in Pisces. It's related to our spiritual beliefs and what matters to us and what we want to have boundaries around. So the trine is good, but in this dynamic, I'm thinking it's like Saturn telling Mars what is acceptable and what isn't. So I don't think it's a coincidence that Mars is kind of stuck while all of this is happening. I think that when Mars eventually goes direct, there's a lot that's going to happen that's because of what's gone on while it's been in retrograde, if that makes sense. So when it comes out of retrograde and starts moving perhaps into Leo, there will be some clarity around what actions we need to take and what we need to no longer pursue and things like that. I actually just remembered there will be another challenge when Mars goes direct. And you can actually see it on this chart. But when Mars goes direct, it's going to have an opposition to Pluto in the early degrees of Leo. So Pluto in the early degrees of Aquarius. So they're just across from each other. And that will be quite an impactful opposition as well. So maybe Mars will have to get past that before it can really start doing things properly. So that's another challenge that Mars has to navigate in the future. And what else? So Venus in Pisces, as I said earlier, is also in a trine with Mars in Cancer. So even though we have the divine feminine energies being exalted, being supported by other energies, and the divine masculine energies are sort of being dampened down, the two planets themselves, Venus and Mars, are supporting each other. So, as I said before, that minor grand trine means Mars and Venus are working together, but also Uranus is working with both Mars and Venus. Wow, this seems like quite a complex chart, but the thing that stands out to me is that every single aspect that has come up here is a positive one, because we've only talked about conjunctions, trines, and sextiles. There have been no squares and no oppositions here. So I can't really say this is a bad chart. It's certainly a complex chart, but I don't think it's a bad one. And as I said earlier, the stelliums also mean concentrated Aquarian and Piscean energies. And looking at this chart, Uranus is in an earth sign, but pretty much everything else is in air and water signs. Chiron's obviously not a planet, but everything else is water, air. Seems like very little in fire, nothing in fire except for Chiron, and I guess the earth has the south node and Uranus. But really that strong air and water placement it's almost putting an exclamation mark on the point that we're not meant to be taking action right now, because obviously the air signs relate to mental processing, thinking, and the water signs are about feelings and emotional processing. So really this feels like it's a time for ideas and understanding and receptivity, connecting to intuition, understanding your feelings, connecting to spiritual guidance. So this is a, sort of almost an internal time, like it's all happening in our head and in our heart. So just I feel like this is saying that you just need to allow yourself time to accept and process all these new ideas. And while all of this is happening, Mars is in retrograde. So Mars can't really do an awful lot. And so I think I've said this already, but I feel like this is all the groundwork being done for when Mars goes direct. So Mars will go direct and you will know the actions you want to take because you've had this quiet period where you've done a lot of thinking and reflecting and you've gained some insights and wisdom and you've assimilated all of those things. So then it's like Mars is just coming out of lockdown. And actually, that's funny because it's reminding me of the COVID lockdown. Um, and I don't know about you guys, but going through COVID lockdown had a very life-changing effect on me because it made me realize that I actually wasn't liking how busy, hectic, and chaotic my life was at that time. And as an introvert, I'll be honest, I actually quite liked having time at home to relax and potter around. And I kind of liked not having to deal with people and um, even things like cooking, which I don't normally enjoy. I would be cooking and I'd be enjoying the process just because I was so relaxed while I was cooking. So the life-changing part was that in that lockdown standstill period, um, I guess for the first time in my life, I started to wonder if I'd made the wrong choices. So, was this job that I'd always wanted really the right thing for me? And if it was the right thing for me, why wasn't I happy? So why wasn't I enjoying it if it was the job I've always wanted? So it really did mean that I was doing a lot of introspection and reflection. And I came out of lockdown and went back to work, and it was very clear that I didn't really want that job anymore. And eventually that led to the action, which was that I resigned from that job. And then that took me down a new path, and I gained an understanding of the importance of making aligned choices, which is just about how important it is to say yes to the things that feel right and no to the things that don't feel right. And believe me, that was a new experience for me because I'd never even considered alignment in my old life. I guess mentally thought, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. I'll go do that. But it wasn't really about how I was feeling about things. And while life hasn't been smooth sailing at all the last few years, I can definitely say that I'm finding this more aligned life to be much less of a struggle than the old non-aligned life. Uh, I'm definitely earning less money, but I do have more time, more freedom, and more peace. And to be honest, having made this shift, I don't think you can really put a price on those things because they do make such a positive difference to the quality of your life, like your experience of your life. Um, yeah, I wasn't planning to share any of that today, but the fact that I have might mean that these new moon astrological energies are about something similar happening at a collective level affecting everyone. So maybe more and more people will be considering their values and working out what they really need in order to be happy. Like, do you need other people to see you as successful and accomplished, or do you just want to be happy? And I guess I've made my choice because I think happiness matters. And the reason I feel that way is because none of us is really guaranteed a tomorrow. So why would you put off happiness for some arbitrary future date? Like, I'll have a great life when I retire in 20 years. Well, you might die before you retire in 20 years, but you might also end up in circumstances where you can't really enjoy your retirement. And there's a number of things that could happen to do that. So I guess for me, the secret to happiness is actually just to choose happiness and to do that as a habit. So as an everyday thing, what are the choices that will bring more happiness? So, yeah. And I feel like the secret to a happy life is actually just to string together lots of happy days. So, it's really just about enjoying the present, enjoying the day, and doing that every day and as much as you can, because life is obviously, life has ups and downs. Life might knock you down sometimes, but um, when that happens, you just have to do your best to come back to baseline and reset, and keep focusing and appreciating, focusing on and appreciating the blessings, because grateful people are happy people, and that doesn't mean their lives are perfect. I actually don't think anyone has a perfect life, but just because you have problems doesn't mean that you have to have a miserable life. So I think that whether you're happy or miserable is really just about how you choose to see things. It's not about how good your life is compared to someone else. Wow, I feel like I've done a bit of rambling there, but that's enough rambling. If you're still listening, thank you. I think I'll just head to the tarot section now, and hopefully I'll be able to get that reading out without too much more rambling. Okay, so this is the spread that showed up for this new moon reading. If you're interested in the decks that I've used, I'll have them listed in the description box. I actually felt inspired by the Lunar New Year, and I've just chosen all Chinese themed decks. So it's kind of fun to work with them, and we'll see what we get from them. So this is another spread with a lot of action at the bottom of the deck. We have 5 cards to be precise. And I've actually found this happens a lot when the astrology is profound and impactful. So it's really not too surprising because, as I said in the astrology section, it was a complex chart. I mean, there was nothing terribly bad there, but it was complex. There were lots of interactions and things to think about. Okay, so the fact that I've taken extra cards from the bottom of the deck, it's generally an indication that there are a lot of major arcana energies showing up there. So here in this spread, the card at the bottom of the deck was actually the Ace of Pentacles, which is a really great card, and I feel like I'm seeing it a lot these days. And I think that is probably very much to do with the fact that the world is shifting. So I think a lot of people in the spiritual community are actually talking about how they can see New Earth happening. And of course, it's happening because people are making different choices and starting down new paths. So the Ace of Pentacles is very much about new beginnings in our physical reality. And I tend to see this as cardinal Earth energy. So I do get Capricornian energies from this card. Now, the next 4 cards that I've got at the bottom of the deck, so the 4 subsequent cards, were the Emperor, the Hierophant, the Empress, and the Lovers. And that actually blows my mind because if I leave the Hierophant out of this for a minute, we have the Emperor and the Empress, which are the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And then we have the Lovers, which is a card about choosing what's in your heart. And the image on this Lovers card is obviously of a masculine and a feminine embracing each other. So that fits incredibly well with what we came up with in the astrology section, because we even had that trine between Mars and Venus there, which was saying that the masculine and feminine energies are working together. So I would read this as energetic union between the masculine and the feminine. And I guess some people do see twin flames as the external manifestation of that. So if you identify as a twin flame, you might be seeing things come into balance with regard to you and your counterpart. For everyone else, I mean, not everyone's a twin flame, but for everyone else, this is telling us also that there is a strong alignment. Your masculine and feminine energies within you are working together as a team. They're in union. There is no conflict. And they're choosing to do what their heart is guiding them to do, because that's the meaning of the Lovers card. And I'm just finding that all so beautiful. Now I'm going to go back to the Hierophant card because it's there as well. And I guess the Hierophant is a card of tradition, so it could certainly relate to the older, more traditional way of doing things. But the fact that it's here in between the masculine and the feminine, I feel like that's got to be meaningful. So the Hierophant is also a card we think of as a spiritual teacher or guide, and I often see that as a position that someone has gained through a process. They followed a strong process of ascension. They've gained the necessary wisdom and they've gained the experience to become this teacher or guide. So the Hierophant card, I always see that as also meaning someone who's followed the process through without taking any shortcuts or skipping any steps. So I feel like the reason it's here between the Emperor and the Empress, it's saying that this union between the masculine and the feminine has taken a lot of time and it's required a commitment to the process of evolution. So both of these energies have had to grow and mature. They've had to become more enlightened before they could get to this point where they understand each other and they can work together. So that's incredible, isn't it? Now, before I move on, the major arcana cards always have astrological energies related to them. So I'll just quickly run through those. The Emperor relates to Aries, the Hierophant relates to Taurus, the Empress relates to Venus, which rules both Taurus and Libra, and the Lovers card relates to Gemini. So there are lots of zodiac signs that have shown up already in this reading. The cards in the actual spread are the Ten of Swords, the Three of Wands, and the Tower. And it's funny, but even though the Ten of Swords and the Tower can seem like heavy cards, I'm finding increasingly that I'm just not as bothered by these cards anymore as I used to be. So when I first started learning tarot, I would be like, oh no, that's not a good card. But now they actually feel like good cards. So I think that's related to my own journey because I've gone through these kinds of energies and there's always been more to experience on the other side. And more to experience on the other side of those experiences. And I'm actually going to say that there are good things to be experienced on the other side of those experiences. So, of course, with the amazing energies at the bottom of the deck as well, I do feel like this is a positive reading. But anyway, the Ten of Swords, I mean, it always looks like a brutal card. And the image here, we've got a dragon that's, been murdered with 10 swords. So, in the traditional card, it's a person, but 10 swords in the body, basically, it means the person or the dragon is not getting up again. They're done. But this is a card of a permanent ending. But when you really hone in on it, we're talking about the sword suit. So this is about the mind and our thoughts. So it's clear that what has ended, what's been killed off, is actually just a mindset or a belief system. And so this card is beautiful because sometimes the mindset or belief system that we've had hasn't been a good one. So it can be just a really good thing that it gets killed off. So when you look at this card, and it's beautifully shown in this card, but the dragon is dead, but there are all these birds that are escaping from the corpse of this dragon. They're flying free. So really this Ten of Swords experience, it's the ending of a belief system and it has set you free. You're now free to have new ideas and you're free to have new experiences because you're no longer limited by that belief system that was holding you and confining you before. I just think that's beautiful. So as I told you, this is actually a good card. And the card in the present position is reflecting that because it's the Three of Wands, which is, of course, about moving in a new direction and making progress in a new direction. And it's about seeing results and opportunities starting to appear. So this is a very positive card. It's about growth. It's about expansion. It's about forward movement. So perfect card to follow the Ten of Swords. So it's basically saying there was an old mindset belief system that was limiting you, and once you put an end to that, you've just grown and expanded in a new direction, and that's really lovely. Now the last card is the Tower card, and again I'm not seeing this as something bad necessarily. So the Tower card is about things that collapse or end suddenly, but it is always about false egoic structures that crumble or get destroyed. And this card, the Tower, is being engulfed in flames, so it's just being taken out completely. And the destruction of the Tower, it can be seen as divine intervention to set us free from those kinds of limiting structures. But quite often I also get a sense that the Tower gets destroyed because we've spiritually outgrown the Tower. We can't stay there anymore because it's too small for us. So in a lot of ways, it's similar to that Ten of Swords, in the sense that the ending sets you free. And that's both, all of this is really taken back to the astrology as well, because the Ten of Swords was about the endings that took place in our headspace, and the Tower is in the future, representing the endings taking place in our physical reality. And incredibly, the planet associated with the Tower card is Mars. And the reason it's reminding me of the astrology section is because I said Mars is currently in lockdown while we're doing all these mental and emotional work. We're making decisions, we're processing. And so that's very fitting. Well, it's fitting in very well with the astrology. So when Mars is released from lockdown, when it goes direct, that's when we're going to see action, and the action is why this Tower card is in the future position. So Mars will come out of lockdown and start taking action that's already been determined by all the internal processes that we've already gone through. And so these actions are going to mean endings in our physical realities. And you might be wondering, well, why is that showing up as a tower if you're making it happen? But the thing to remember is that this is happening at a collective level. So you might have tower experiences that you're not expecting because of what someone else has decided to do. So Mars goes direct, and your boss suddenly closes his business down or her business down because that's the action they've been guided to take. Or Mars goes direct, and your relationship is going to change because your partner decides to take action, and their action is to quit their job so they can pursue a new direction. Or maybe Mars goes direct and your whole home and family life is going to change because your child suddenly decides they're going to try for a sports scholarship at another school, and they actually get it, and that means now you're going to decide to move to a new location that's closer to the new school. Or again, maybe it's your partner who's coming out, Mars goes direct, they decide to apply for a promotion or a new position, and they get it, and that means that you're going to be making a physical move to a new place. So there's lots of possibilities. Your relationship could come to an end suddenly, and it's because Mars has gone direct and you or your partner no longer wants to stay in this relationship because it's just not what is satisfying to them anymore. So, or satisfying to you, it could be you. So I just feel like Mars going direct will mean people start taking action, and it's action that's well considered. They've thought it through, but they're going to start taking action in directions that they see as necessary. It's not rash or irrational. It may seem that way to you. They've thought about it, they've emotionally processed it, and it's what they know they have to do. So what could be happening in your life that will show up as the towers is that other people might do things that you never saw coming. It's just what they've been guided to do. And similarly, you might be causing this tower in someone else's life. So it is what it is. So I feel like that tower is very, very specifically linked to that Mars retrograde in Cancer. Once it's out of Cancer, once it's direct, once it's had its Pluto opposition, there's going to be things happening. Before I touch on the oracle cards, I also wanted to point out that I used coins in this spread rather than crystals. I spent a lot of time trying to think what to use in it. I just got guided to coins. And these are gold coins. They are the Australian coins for the denominations of $1 and $2. And I guess I wanted to use coins. It makes sense because it is the Lunar New Year, and I know the Chinese tradition is to give money on New Year's Day. I'm not Chinese, I'm of a South Asian background, but it's also traditional in our culture to do that as well on the day that we celebrate as New Year's Day. So I guess I wanted the coins here to represent the blessing of prosperity and good fortune. And I used both the 1 and the 2 because I see 3 as a number that's auspicious. I associate it with God. So I've got the $1 and the $2 because they add to 3. Now, I can't speak for what the Chinese belief system is, but what I was raised to believe in my culture was that the money you receive on New Year's Day is not for spending. It's actually money you're meant to hold on to because it's a gift and a blessing. And I guess the point of that is that blessings are meant to be received with gratitude and they're meant to be looked after. So you don't just say, oh, yay, I've got this money. Let me just throw it at something, buy something. You say, oh, I've got this money and it's a blessing and I'm going to take care of it and nurture it and see it grow, things like that. So I feel like this is talking about when blessings come in for us, we need to actually just say, oh, thank you, and then hold on to it and look after it. Um, so these are themes that have already come up in this video, but I'm thinking about the fact that receptivity and nurturing are divine feminine traits. And it's funny because I picked these coins out randomly. I have a jar of gold coins on my desk, so I just grabbed them. And then when I was putting them down, I had to pick a side for which side I was going to have facing up. And I've chosen the Queen Elizabeth, the one with the Queen Elizabeth profile, the side with the Queen Elizabeth profile on it. This is Queen Elizabeth II, obviously. And when you think about it, she actually was a real life empress. So she was the head of the British Empire. So, we have an empress here. And when I zoomed in on the coin just now, I saw that the year 2020 is on it. So that's an incredible synchronicity because I was talking about COVID lockdown, which did happen in 2020. And the other coin I chose, I should say the other reason I went for Queen Elizabeth's head in the first place was because I wanted these coins to symbolize wealth, and she was obviously one of the wealthiest women in the world. So that was one of the reasons. I certainly didn't make the Empress connection till just now. For the second coin, I chose the opposite side, and that's because it was actually a commemorative coin. The $2 coin was a commemorative one, and it features a poppy and the word remembrance. So when I first put that down, I thought it might be of relevance to someone out there. But again, as I've just been channeling, I just got that it's Remembrance Day. And then that clicked that Remembrance Day is the 11th of November, which is, of course, 11/11. So that's a profound number to come up in this reading because it can mean a lot of different things, but it's actually a number that's seen as representing an ascension portal or gateway. And it's also known as a twin flame number. So if we are talking about a twin flame dynamic, because that's already come up, this might actually be confirming that is what we're talking about, a twin flame union perhaps. So because with that message of potential inner union for the rest of us as well, 11/11 might also be saying that this portal is opening up, this essential portal or pathway or gateway is opening up for us because of all of that inner work and growth that went into achieving that inner union. So that's really interesting. And again, as I've been saying all that, it's dawning on me that we have another 11/11 technically because the sun and the moon are in Aquarius, which is the 11th sign. So wow. And yeah, there's more. The sun and the moon are also, seen as masculine and feminine energies, and they're conjunct at this new moon. So yeah, lots of symbolism here for energetic union between the masculine and the feminine. And I almost forgot that I wanted to say that one of the reasons I felt guided to gold coins in the first place was because we started with the Ace of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck, and typically the image on the Ace of Pentacles card is of a gold coin, the pentacle being offered to you by spirit. So these coins are also symbolizing that new and divinely blessed beginning, or the opportunities that are new and divinely blessed that are showing up on your path. So wow, I really wasn't expecting so many messages when I started talking about the coins, but I guess that's why Spirit wanted me to use those in this spread. And it also just highlights that divination can happen via any modality, I guess. So coins, you can channel from coins as well. But anyway, the 3 oracle cards, I think I'll just finish up by going through those. And they do seem to have messages that go together and go with the rest of the spread as well. So we have the wood ox show up with the message, knowledge brings wisdom. And the message on the card and the ox, it's all reminding me of the Hierophant message, because the Hierophant is Taurus energy. And even though this isn't a bull, it's certainly an animal with a similar appearance. So knowledge brings wisdom fits with the Hierophant, who is wise and knowledgeable. All the flowers blossoming in the background are also reminding me of the Empress card, which is the Venus card. And Venus, as I've mentioned, rules Taurus. The ox on this card looks like it has an activated third eye. So this is definitely talking about receiving intuitive guidance and the ability to make things come to life, to create beauty, to make things start blooming in your life and in your world. And that's making me think in the astrology of the Venus-Neptune conjunction that we talked about, which is going to be quite profound. The second oracle card is titled Great Power, and it's a number 34 card. And 34 is always a number that makes me think of the fact that 3 is the Empress number and 4 is the Emperor number, and they're together. And when they are together, they add to 7, which is the number of divinity. So again, number 34 makes me think of masculine, feminine union, and we have great power as the message there. So I feel, again, similar to that ascension portal or gateway, like something's happening because of this masculine feminine union that is making us more powerful as a result. So the card itself has a few messages on it. It says there is a lot of potential. Use your power for good. Be careful, strong and principled. Do what is right. Be humble in your strength. Think of others. Act with grace. And I'm thinking all of that just makes me think of that line, with great power comes great responsibility. So you're obviously at a point now where you're powerful and wise, and you're being told to do good things with these gifts. So be humble, be kind, and act with integrity. The red of this card is very much reminiscent of the red packets that get handed out on Chinese New Year, the ones that actually carry the money inside them. So that's, again, taking me back to how this might be a blessing. This new found power that you have is a blessing, and how we're meant to take good care of the blessings that we receive, because they are gifts that the divine has given to us. So just like how you would take that money on New Year's Day and look after it rather than spending it frivolously, foolishly, carelessly, you would look after that money. And so these gifts, and I guess speaking directly of this card, this is talking about great power. This is a gift for you to cherish, for you to nurture, and for you to use responsibly. Use it for an important reason. Don't just, go around throwing your power around. This power needs to be channeled into something good. So I guess the message is be responsible, be intentional, maintain integrity. So really important message there. And the last card here is titled Moon, which, we're doing a lunar reading, so that's pretty cool. The message on this card is you are wandering between a jubilant world of fantasy and reality. All is not as it seems. Enjoy the sensuality and sensitivity that the current energy brings. Yet, the heightened emotions may not be stable, so avoid making big decisions at this time. Okay, so this is not the Moon card in Tarot, but it certainly has that message, a similar message in terms of the energy of illusion, which does come through in the Moon card in Tarot. The Moon card in Tarot is related to Pisces, and obviously that is where that stellium is operating, which does include Neptune and Venus and the North Node. So this card is confirming that this is definitely a good time. Things feel good, but it's also carrying a warning of things not being as they seem and things not being stable. So this is saying that you need to be careful to not put too much faith into things or overcommit to things, even if they are feeling good at this present time and you're not seeing any problems with them. And I suspect the reason for this message is because there are some towers that will be falling in the future, so things that will collapse and end unexpectedly. And the example that's just instantly coming to mind is that you're currently in a great job and you have a great relationship and everything feels wonderful and stable, and you decide it's a good time to buy a bigger house. And you do that, but then one of those other things happens, or some of those other things happen. You've signed your contract on the house, it's all settled, and then your boss decides to close the business down, or your partner decides to change jobs, or they get promoted and they have to relocate. And suddenly, this bigger house, this dream house, it's actually just become a big problem. You're either worried about how you're going to make the repayments, or you're seeing that, well, actually, I bought the house, but I'm actually not going to be moving into it. And now you're forced to sell the house because yeah, you can't afford it anymore, or because you're moving. And you're going to lose money, obviously, because of all the transactional costs of buying and selling in a very short period of time. And maybe you even find yourself homeless because you sold your current house already as well. And now you can't move into that house because you can't afford it, but you don't have your old house either. So it's very much the message I'm getting is that these towers could just happen. And so if you've committed yourself to something big, you could end up in a bit of a pickle. So that was kind of an extreme example, but it's just to highlight the point that you shouldn't make big decisions at this time. So life might feel really good right now, but there's some things that are going to happen up ahead in the future. And Spirit is just telling you, you know what? Yeah, things are good right now and you should enjoy that, but don't don't hang your hat on what you think the future is going to be, because things are going to change in ways you're not expecting. So aim to stay free and flexible. So think about being footloose and fancy free. Don't lock yourself into any big commitments, and don't take on any big or complicated projects. If you are making plans, keep them small, keep them simple. They should be things that you could cancel or pull out of if your circumstances suddenly changed. So that's the vibe I'm getting here. Stay in the present, enjoy it, because I think it's good stuff happening at this present time. So don't feel like don't I guess don't miss out on the pleasure because you're worrying about what might happen tomorrow. But so enjoy the day, enjoy today, enjoy all the good things that are happening right now. But the point really is the future's changing. It's not going to be what you think it's going to be. So don't lock yourself into things based on an assumption of what the future's going to be. So that's an interesting message, isn't it, really? And I think that's all. Actually, no, I did notice also the numbers in the spread, both in the cards and the coins. So we're getting the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Isn't that interesting? So that automatically just makes me think of ascension, because I do see 7 as a number that's about spiritual alignment. So we're starting at 1, which is the beginning, and we've gone all the way up to 7. And 1 to 7 are also the numbers we associate with the chakras, because the first chakra is the root chakra and the 7th chakra is the crown chakra. And gosh, with the message of the union between masculine and the feminine, the suggestion of something climbing from the 1st to the 7th chakra, and that message of great power because of the energetic union between masculine and feminine. I think some of you are going to get what I'm talking about. But what I'm actually thinking about here is a Kundalini activation, because that is a process where Shakti energy is awakened. The Shakti energy is usually residing at the base of the spine, but it gets awakened. And once it's awakened, this energy travels up through the chakras. So it goes from 1 to 7. And then as it's doing that, it's cleansing and healing the chakras, restoring them to optimal functioning. And then the Shakti energy reaches the crown chakra, where it connects with the Shiva energy. And when a person has that Shakti Shiva integration, they become a powerful, enlightened being. So I really am feeling that this is what this reading has been alluding to the whole way. That's why we're talking about great power, because you're going to have all of your chakras functioning perfectly, and you've got this union between these two forces up in your crown chakra. And the other thing to point out is that and this is another synchronicity, the Kundalini energy, when you read about it, it's described as being dormant, like a serpent that's coiled at the base of the spine. And then when it's activated, it uncoils and it moves up through the chakras. And did you remember back at the start of the video, I was talking about the movement of a snake, and we're talking about serpents. And then looking at the spread now, there are snakes on the Three of Wands card. A lot of these dragons have a serpentine form. And even the way certain characters are, their clothing, their hair, it's got that sinewy, flowing appearance. So that kind of snake energy is all through this spread. And I'm also seeing chakras because of that red card. The pattern on the card looks like little cogs. And chakras are actually energy centers that are said to resemble spinning discs. So cogs and spinning discs. I'm just blown away by this reading because there's been so many connections and interconnected things, not just in the spread itself, but between the astrology and the tarot. So much that this reading almost feels quite surreal. And I'll be honest, I've also had some crazy, complex, long dreams the last couple of nights as well. So maybe that Piscean stellium is having an influence because, Pisces, Neptune, it's all 12th house stuff. So, you do go into crossing into sort of otherworldly experiences. So I don't know if any of you are going through that as well. Do let me know in the comments. I don't normally do any dream journaling either, but with the dreams I've had in the last couple of days, I've actually written them out because they've been so long, so vivid, so involved. And I can't say I understand what they're about, but I just felt like there was a reason for such vivid dreams, that there must be some meaning to them. So I wrote them all out and everything I remember, and maybe the meaning of it all will sort of, come through into my consciousness at some point. Okay. That was another ramble, wasn't it? But anyway, I'll end it there. If you're a new viewer, please don't think that I always ramble. This reading has been a bit more rambly than I normally am. But maybe that's just the energies that are affecting me right now. And it is what it is. So yeah, that's the end of the spread. I truly hope you enjoyed the reading. As I was trying to think of a title for this video, this quote popped into my head. I always think of it as being from Kung Fu Panda, with Master Oogway saying it. Now I'm sure there is someone in real life who has said this. So if you know who that is, please let me know in the comments. But the quote is, "Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift." That's why they call it the present. And I feel like that fits perfectly with the themes that have come up in this reading. Okay, I'll stop the video here. The decks that I've used today are listed in the description box. Some of the decks will have Amazon links next to them. These links will take you to the Amazon site that's appropriate for where you live. So you can use the links just to check the decks out. But if you do happen to purchase a deck after using the link that I've shared, I might qualify for a small commission. That doesn't affect the price you pay or any shipping deals that you're entitled to. And I think the links are only active for 24 hours unless you add the item to your cart. So if you're thinking about using my link to buy a deck, just add the deck to your cart while you're considering it. And of course, you can remove it if you change your mind about buying it. There are some extra details in the description box for those who do want to use my links to buy decks. If you find yourself watching any of my older videos, I wasn't originally including the deck list in the description box, but I have actually updated all the old videos, so you will find it there as well. And if you're still here after all that, thank you for watching this video. If you liked the video, please give it a like or leave a comment, and consider subscribing if you enjoy my content. And a big thank you to everyone who's already subscribed. So yeah, happy Lunar New Year, everyone, and I hope that I will see you all in a future video. Thank you so much for being here today.